Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Hello, Sip and Talkers. So, have you seen this story that's been absolutely everywhere lately?
You have to be more specific, but I have a feeling I know what you're talking about.
The influencer in Chengdu.
Yeah.
The one who looks exactly like Rosé from Blackpink.
Yeah.
I mean, the hair, the jawline, even the clothes. I honestly thought it was her at first glance, like she was doing some secret fan meetup in China.
You're talking about Daisy, right? Or Dai Xiaoxi. Yeah, that story blew up. And it got really controversial, especially when she was at that pop-up shop.
Oh, the signing. That's the part that got me.
Yeah.
Because signing merchandise with a signature that's almost a carbon copy of the real Rosés,
right.
That's a whole other level.
That's where it goes from, tribute to something else entirely. We were talking about this, and I think the term visual parasitism is pretty spot on. But the thing is, this isn't just one influencer trying to get traffic.
No, not at all. It's actually a perfect snapshot of this this much bigger thing happening in China. It's fascinating and, honestly, a little creepy.
Exactly. And that's what we want to get into today on Sip and Talk, this whole culture of imitation, from the filters on your phone to these full-blown Shanzhai products.
Right. You see it everywhere. Faces that look just like stars, phones that look just like Apple products, and then you have these, fake European towns built in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, why is there such an obsession with being like something else?
That's the core question we want to analyze. What's the logic behind it? We think it boils down to this. When you're in a system that really, really discourages mistakes, imitation becomes the safest possible survival strategy.
When creativity is risky, you just copy what works.
You got it. And this isn't just about looks. It's about politics, economics, and this whole debate over what's authentic. So are you ready to peel back the filter and see what's really underneath?
Let's do it. I think we should start with that signature that broke the internet.
All right. Grab your coffee, everyone. This is going to be a wild one.
Okay, so to really get this, we've kind of broken our conversation down into three main parts.
Yeah, 3 dimensions to explore this. This massive visual exercise. First up is what we're calling visual substitution.
This is where it all begins, really. From the filters on an app all the way to people physically changing their bodies to match those filters. It's about turning your appearance into capital.
Then second, we're going to dive into the industry side of things, the path dependency of it all, the political and economic reasons behind Shanzhai culture.
Why do big companies like Xiaomi or Miniso always seem to get accused of copying? We'll look at the idea of innovation risk and why just taking someone else's successful design is often the most rational business move.
And finally, the part I find most fascinating is the cultural subjectivity loss.
This is the big picture stuff. When a country starts tearing down real history to build fake ancient cities, or when people can't even recognize their own traditional clothing, what does that say about their cultural anxiety?
It's a huge topic. So let's start with where most people experience this every single day, right on their phone screen.
Okay, dimension 1. Visual substitution. This really does start with the camera app in your hand, doesn't it? And like you said, it's way more than just vanity. It's an economic system. It's visual capitalization.
Absolutely. I mean, the numbers here are just staggering. The live streaming and short video economy in China is projected to hit something like 5 trillion RMB by 2025. That's what, nearly 700 billion US dollars.
It's a massive market.
Yeah.
And in that market, your face, your visual identity is literally your first productivity. You are capitalizing on your appearance, plain and simple.
And to do that successfully, you can't just look however you want. You have to fit the mold. You have to look like the template that's already proven to be successful. It's known as the Wang Ham Lian, the internet celebrity face.
Or the slightly more critical term, the snake face. And it's a look you'd recognize instantly. It's got that super sharp V-shaped chin, the unnaturally huge, almost liquid-looking eyes, and this is a big one, extremely pale white skin.
Right, and that skin whitening thing isn't just a modern trend from a filter. It taps into a really deep-seated traditional aesthetic, the idea that one white hides 100 flaws.
So you take that traditional idea and you combine it with the brutal, unforgiving logic of the live streaming algorithm. And what you get is a world where using a filter isn't just an option, it's mandatory.
It's a business requirement. The system is ruthless. If your visual capital, your face, doesn't match the template the algorithm likes, you just don't get seen. You don't get the traffic. You don't sell the products.
And you have to remember how people are watching, too. It's on a tiny little phone screen. So to even get noticed in that sea of faces, your features have to be exaggerated. The filter is the tool that makes that happen.
It completely flips the cultural script on aesthetics, doesn't it? Here in the West, if someone uses a super heavy filter, we might think it's, a bit fake or insecure.
But there, we've seen reports where it's the opposite. Not using a filter can be seen as unprofessional, like you're not respecting your audience enough to present your most perfect, most capitalized self.
Which is just a wild concept. And that's where this whole thing takes a pretty dark turn. It's when the digital filter isn't enough anymore and people start wanting to make it permanent.
This is the jump from the screen to the skin. Researchers have started calling it Snapchat dysmorphia.
Oh.
I saw it mentioned places like HK01 and some academic journals. The idea is just chilling.
It is. People are literally going to plastic surgeons and asking to be changed to look like their own filtered selfies.
Your digital avatar becomes the ideal, and your real physical face is suddenly the flawed version. Reality starts chasing the digital ghost you created.
And of course, the market has exploded to meet that demand. There's this huge boom in what's called light medical aesthetics. This isn't your old school invasive plastic surgery.
No, it's all about micro adjustments. A little Botox here, some fillers there, hyaluronic acid injections. They're marketed not as surgery, but as self-investment, like getting your nails done.
You're investing in your visual capital, right? You're trying to achieve that permanent high-definition skin texture that the filter gives you. It's just becoming part of a routine for a lot of people.
But the cost of conforming, it can be huge, both financially and, well, physically. While some people stick to the light stuff, the pressure to get that one specific Wang Hong look drives others to some really extreme procedures.
And you've seen the results. They can be jarring. We're talking people spending tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars and ending up with that dreaded cone chin or the shoe forehead.
The Shu Singong forehead, yeah, named after the god of longevity who has this big bulging head. It looks totally unnatural in real life.
So why do it? Why take the risk and spend the money for a look that's so, disproportionate?
Because that standardized filter-perfect look is the only verified safe appearance for the market. It's a guaranteed return on your investment. Individuality is just too risky when the algorithm has already decided what beauty is.
And that really throws the global contrast into sharp relief. You can draw a very clear line between what's happening there, this functional aesthetics, and what's happening in the West, which is moving more towards ethical aesthetics.
Functional aesthetics is purely about the result. Does it give views? Does it make money? If the answer is yes, then it's good no matter how much it distorts reality.
Meanwhile, you've got this pushback in Europe. Norway and France now have laws saying influencers have to label any photo that's been retouched or filtered.
Exactly. And that's driven by mental health concerns. The ethical argument is that these filters are damaging social trust and are linked to things like body dysmorphic disorder.
So you have Western governments basically legislating reality to protect people's mental health, while in this other system, failing to use the filter is the unprofessional thing to do. It's a total inversion of values around what's real and what's authentic.
Which, brings us full circle right back to Daisy, the rosé copycat. She is the logical conclusion of this entire system of visual capitalization.
She is. She represents this idea of identity blurring. She was offering the market a low-cost star substitute. Brands could hire her, get maybe 95% of the visual impact and traffic of the real rosé.
But for a tiny fraction of the price, it's a purely economic decision. But what's the cost to her? When your entire success is built on borrowed authority, you basically erase yourself.
The goal is no longer to be an original. The goal is to be the best possible replica of something that's already a proven success. And when the system rewards you for being like her, the incentive to just be you pretty much disappears.
And when that happens on a massive scale, you get a culture of clones, a visually boring, standardized landscape. It's the chilling but logical endpoint of a purely functional aesthetic system.
Okay, so that's the face. That's the individual level. Now let's scale this up from the algorithm to the assembly line. Let's get into dimension 2, the industrial version of this safe strategy, which is the whole world of Shanzhai.
Shanzhai. It's such a great word. It literally means mountain fortress. And it used to refer to, outlaws or bandits operating outside the system. It had this rebellious grassroots feel to it.
But now it's basically the global term for high-level copying. And when it comes to luxury goods, especially cars, we call it the great toy visual deception.
That's a perfect name for it. It's the ultimate shortcut. It gives you the visual ticket to wealth and status for, maybe 1% of the actual cost.
Yeah.
The manufacturers figured out the value isn't in the engineering, It's in the look, the brand recognition.
And the car industry gives us some of the most just blatant examples of this. It's like an industrial-grade visual filter. You get the promise of a supercar, but the lie becomes obvious pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Let's break it down. Case number one has to be the most famous example, pixel-level copying. I'm talking about the Zotae SR9.
The Porsche Macan clone. It was infamous. It wasn't just inspired by the Macan. It was something like a 90% direct copy. The headlights, the roofline, everything.
They didn't even try to hide it. I remember reading that anecdote about the CEO of Porsche, seeing it at a car show. He just had this look of like awkward courtesy, just pure professional politeness trying to mask total disbelief and anger.
I mean, can you imagine seeing your multi-billion-dollar design just ripped off and put on display right next to you? It's unbelievably brazen, but that's just the mass-produced version. It gets even wilder.
It does. Case two, pure handcraft. This is where you have these little workshops, mostly in places like Shandong, where guys are literally hand-building the bodies of supercars. Think of Ferrari 458 or a Lamborghini Aventador.
And this is the deception part. They're not building a whole car. They're just building the shell. And then they weld that beautiful, aggressive-looking body onto the chassis of some old, cheap sedan, like a 20-year-old Geely.
I've seen videos of these things. From a distance, at night, you'd swear $1 million hypercar just drove by. But then it gets closer.
And the illusion just shatters. The panel gaps are huge. The paint job is a little off. And then they start the engine.
And it's not the roar of a V12. It's the sad, buzzing sound of an old four-cylinder engine. It sounds like a tractor. It is the perfect embodiment of that old saying, gold and jade on the outside, rot on the inside. All show, no go.
And then there's the final stage of this, which is just pure comedy. Case 3, extreme visual quality. The old man's happy car.
The Youytube. These are the tiny, low-speed electric vehicles you see in more rural areas, and they're made to look like shrunken-down Bugattis or Ferraris.
They're not even street legal in big cities, and they probably top out at, what, 30 miles an hour? But that's not the point. The point is you get to drive your little Bugatti down to the market to buy groceries.
It's about getting that visual ticket of status for almost no money. It's for the gram. So the big question is, why? Why does this culture of visual plagiarism just thrive?
Well, the analysis comes down to pure business logic. Innovation risk is way too high.
It's just simple risk management, right? To design a new phone or a new car, you have to spend billions on research and development. It takes years, you have failures, and at the end of it all, the market might just decide they don't like how it looks.
But if you're a Shanzhai company, you skip all of that. You take a design that's already a proven global success, you copy it, and you get instant market recognition with zero R&D cost and zero aesthetic risk. It's the fastest, safest, cheapest way to survive.
And you can't really ignore the political side of this either. For a long time, the government kind of turned a blind eye. It was framed as grassroots innovation or just the growing pains of a developing industry.
That unofficial protection gave these companies a safe space to grow, but that has started to change. We saw Land Rover actually win a huge lawsuit against a company that copied their Evoque.
Right, the Lufeng X7. That lawsuit was a big deal. It sort of marked the beginning of the end for that pure Wild West era of Shanzhai.
But the demand for that visual ticket, that desire to look successful, that didn't go away. It just got smarter. It evolved into what we're calling legal Shanzhai, the simulacrum.
And this is where it gets really weird and postmodern. The absolute best example is the Xiaomi and Segway 9bot collaboration with Lamborghini. On a go-kart.
An electric go-kart. It's both a genius marketing move and a complete authenticity nightmare. It's not illegal. It's an officially licensed product. But its whole reason for being is affordable visual substitution.
It is the ultimate legal filter. It's painted in that iconic Lamborghini yellow Giallo Orion. And get this, to complete the illusion, it has a speaker that simulates the sound of a V12 engine.
You are driving a licensed sound effect. It's incredible. Xiaomi is a master of this. They don't have to spend decades and billions building a cool brand. Lamborghini already did that. They just buy the license, stick the logo and the color on a cheap go-kart, and it's instantly Instagrammable for the Gen Z market.
The underlying principle is exactly the same. Imitation is the safest route. You borrow the authority of an established brand, and you guarantee success with minimal risk.
It's the perfect commercial reflection of this mirror society we're talking about. Everything is technically legitimate, but the whole thing feels profoundly fake. You have a licensed Lambo go-kart driven through a fake European town by an influencer with a filtered face. It's a copy of a copy of a copy.
That is the definition of a simulacrum. The original reference point is gone, and only the symbol remains. It's wild to see it play out in these phases.
Yeah, let's just recap that really quick. Phase 1.0 was pure Shanzhai, the Zote car. That was about survival, copying to catch up.
Phase 2.0, the filtered influencer, Daisy, copy and rosé. That's about monetizing traffic in the digital economy through visual parasitism.
And now we're in phase 3.0, lethal substitution, the Xiaomi Lambo cart. This is the sophisticated, licensed version. It's about selling the middle class the feeling of luxury, a kind of compensation.
From a tractor-powered Ferrari to a V12 simulating go-kart, the obsession with the symbol of success has never changed, even if the methods have gotten more legitimate.
It just shows that when a system is terrified of failure, it becomes obsessed with looking successful no matter what's really going on under the hood.
Or in this case, what sound is coming out of the speakers.
All right, we've done faces, we've done factories. Now for the third and final dimension of this, and maybe the most profound, we're talking about the loss of cultural subjectivity, the giant cultural filter.
This is where the safe strategy gets scaled up to the level of national identity. And there's no better example than the fake ancient city phenomenon.
The irony here is just, it's so thick. Over the last few decades of insane, rapid development, so many actual, genuine historical sites like the old Hutongs in Beijing were just bulldozed, wiped out for modern buildings and roads.
And now, to fill those historical and cultural gaps, what are they building? These massive cement and LED movie set cities? They're historical theme parks designed for tourism and visual impact.
The examples are just mind-boggling. There's a full-scale, one-to-one replica of Hallstatt, the Austrian village in Guangdong. There's a mini Eiffel Tower in Hangzhou. Even when they rebuild ancient Chinese sites, they're often using modern materials. It looks old, but it has no soul.
It's what critics call visual patriotism. It's projecting this image of a deep, unbroken history and cultural power to mask the real trauma of having destroyed so much of it.
You're not preserving culture, you're scenifying it. You're turning it into a backdrop. The focus is on looking powerful, looking grand. It is the ultimate architectural filter.
And, people often contrast this with what happened in Taiwan, where that cultural fabric from the late Qing and earlier republic was often preserved more organically, block by block.
The logic is consistent, though. If the state can build a huge, fake ancient city at the macro level, why wouldn't an individual feel justified in creating a fake face or buying a fake Ferrari at the micro level? The system teaches you that appearance is what matters.
And this is where that logic starts to eat itself. This leads to what might be the most tragic irony of all: the Hanfu conflict.
This one is just heartbreaking. So Hanfu is the traditional clothing of the Han Chinese people styles from the Ping, Song, Ming dynasties. It's had a huge resurgence among young people.
It's a source of real cultural pride, right?
Yeah.
But then you have these viral videos of young people wearing their own traditional clothing, being stopped and harassed in public.
Harassed by their own countrymen. And why? Because these people mistake their own historical garments for Japanese kimonos.
So let's break down the logic there, because it's so telling. It comes back to the safe strategy. To appreciate genuine Hanfu, you need some knowledge, some nuance. It's a bit complex.
But performing loud, aggressive, anti-Japanese nationalism, that is 100% politically and socially safe. It's a guaranteed way to get social approval. You don't need any knowledge, you just need an enemy.
So this anti-Japan filter just clicks on automatically. The second they see something that even vaguely resembles what they think is Japanese clothing, they attack. The stance is more important than the fact.
And the result is this tragic, precise strike against their own culture. They call it Shanzhai subjectivity. The very people who claim to be protecting their tradition are so ignorant of it that they attack it. They can't even recognize their own reflection anymore.
It's a culture so focused on a single aggressive macro narrative that it's become blind to the actual texture of its own history.
And this is where we have to touch on the most sensitive critique of all. That comes from a lot of overseas scholars. The idea that the modern state itself is a form of political and ideological Shanzhai.
Right, and we need to be clear here. We're reporting this as a significant critical viewpoint from outside observers. The argument goes that the modern political system relies on this constant, intense, visual propaganda, these grand historical narratives, to secure its authority.
And why would it need to do that? The critics argue it's because the true, unfiltered, and often messy historical lineage, which some might see as being continued in the Republic of China, is viewed as an existential threat to the current regime's legitimacy.
So if you can't tolerate the unfiltered original, you have to replace it with a perfect, highly controlled, visually spectacular replica. You apply a constant, ancient-style filter by building monuments and enforcing a single, simple story, because the complex reality is too dangerous.
And that's the thread that ties all of this together, from Daisy's face to the Zotikar to the fake ancient city. The logic is identical.
It's always form over core. It's always the safe stance over the messy fact. The entire system, from top to bottom, encourages you to copy the model that's least likely to get you into trouble, whether that's a celebrity's face, a successful car design, or a politically correct nationalist outburst.
When your survival depends on making zero mistakes, you stop trying to create anything new. You just focus on making the most perfect copy of what you already know is safe. And that is both the genius and the deep tragedy of the safe strategy.
After digging into all of this whole mirror society, it leaves you with a strange feeling. When everything starts to look the same, the faces, the phones, the cities, the world just becomes, well, boring. It's predictable. It feels like this giant, expensive cosplay game, but no one remembers who wrote the original story.
That's a great way to put it. It's shortcutism, right? Copying someone else's idea is a fantastic short-term tactic if you're trying to catch up. But over the long haul, it just guts your ability to create anything truly new. A culture that's terrified of making a mistake can't be a leader. It becomes a follower, a really, really good follower, a high-fidelity follower, but a follower nonetheless.
The filter gets you the traffic, the Shanzhai product gets you the quick profit, the safe political stance gets you social approval, but you lose yourself in the process. You lose self-recognition, you lose legitimacy, and you lose that creative spark.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. In an age where replication is so easy, where AI can create a perfect copy of a face, a voice, a work of art in seconds, what becomes the single most valuable and scarce resource?
It has to be authenticity.
Exactly. If a society can't tolerate mistakes, if it can't handle imperfection, if it demands that every single thing conforms to one safe, verified standard, it kills the very conditions needed for genius to emerge. Innovation is messy. It requires the courage to be wrong, to look weird, to fail.
And finding that courage, the courage to be ourselves, to show our real unfiltered faces, and to back risky original ideas, that's the only way forward. We have to fight that pull towards a safe and easy copy.
We really hope our conversation today gave you a lot to think about. As always, we want to be clear that this was an objective analysis of trends and critical viewpoints. Our goal is just to encourage you to think for yourself and to look past the perfect surface of things.
Thank you so much for joining us for this dive into China's culture of imitation. Please subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget to check out our good friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife. He's got some great travel vlogs and some very funny memes.
We'll talk to you next time.